Okay, so having just analyzed the results of the spirometry tests that you just took, I just want to go over a few things. So to recap, I had you take that spirometry test because you came in saying that you were having a very difficult time breathing lately, especially whenever you were exerting effort. So be that picking up boxes, or you were walking up the stairs, or had just been on an extended walk overall. Additionally, you did, and I witnessed myself, say that you had a cough, and it was just a chronic cough you've had for several months. It hasn't been phlegmy and it hasn't been super wet, which is good, but it's still a cough, so it's very important that you noted that, and so I'm glad that I was able to hear that as well when we were here. So the spirometry test measured what's called the forced vital capacity. This is why I had you breathe in and then exhale as hard as you could in that tube. Reason being is because it was measuring how hard you were exhaling. So your capacity is around 60%, which I'll explain a little bit more in depth soon and explain the implications that this would have for you. Based on the circumstances, though, that I just described with the cough, the breathlessness, and then a bit of the exhaustion whenever you are exercising, as well as in conjunction with those results, I do think that it is fair to say and come to the conclusion that you do have COPD, which is an abbreviation for chronic obstructive pulmonary disease. Now, this affects about 30 million people. Fortunately for you, and this is why that 60% capacity is important, I would place you in the moderate level. So it's great that you came in when you did because it's not necessarily the early stages, but it's not so severe and so advanced where we're looking at permanent, lifelong damage to the point you have a shortened life expectancy. Going back a little bit in our conversation, so you're 64 now, and you said that you had worked in a bar for several years, and you started smoking in your early teens. It's a habit you continued doing until your late 20s, whenever you had your first child. Now, that's safe to say then that you probably experienced both firsthand and then secondhand smoke, and smoking is actually one of the leading causes of COPD. So from this point forward, we're really going to want to cut down your exposure to smoke. We want to make sure you're not smoking anything whatsoever. We want to make sure you're not in environments that are extremely smoke-filled. Reason being, it'll just agitate the lungs, it'll agitate the airways, and then it'll just make that cough worse and just make your overall health worse. So this is definitely something to be taken seriously, but this is also something that can have reduced symptoms and does have an effective treatment if you make some lifestyle changes. So you won't ever be cured, but you can definitely manage COPD, which is great. And again, we're just going to take some steps to improve your overall quality of life from this point forward. And then just improvements in lifestyle. So again, the first thing is we're going to want to get you on a super healthy regimen. There is a link between cardiovascular disease and COPD. So I am going to want to have you start exercising regularly. I'm going to have you meet with a physical therapist to get you on some exercise regimens. And then I also want you to meet with a dietitian just to improve your diet a little bit. Reason being, again, those two are positively linked. And so we want to make sure that we got you eating right and that we've got you exercising a ton as well. And that's, again, just an improvement to your lifestyle. Next, I know I mentioned this, you do want to cut down on that exposure to smoke, so we're going to get you out of those environments. Please just start going to those smoke-free places, and again, do not smoke whatsoever. We're going to have you start walking too. That'll just increase your lung capacity, especially if you can do that a few times a week in conjunction with exercising. It'll just help you overall with your breathlessness that you've been experiencing and will help improve that lung capacity. So when we leave today, I'm actually going to give you a little at-home spirometry test that you can use. And this is a great way to just do some at-home assessments of your lung capacity and then see how you're breathing. I want you to come in next week after we get you started on medication. That way we can go ahead and do one. And then for the next 2 months, I'm going to have you come in every 2 weeks. That way we can just go ahead and formally assess, have you breathe in, breathe out. That way we can see everything that's going on with you and see if we're having any improvements. But the one you're going to do at home, if you would just do that about 5 times a day in sets of 5, so you're looking at about 25 over the next week, that'd be great just because I want to go ahead and measure. And if you could record for me each time how high you were able to get whenever you exhale, that would be ideal. So speaking of medication, this is actually going to be our final step here. I'm going to prescribe you a bronchodilator. Now, a bronchodilator is great because it comes in the form of an inhaler, and so it's super easy to use. The medication that you're going to have would be Spiriva, and so you're going to be taking that every 12 hours. When you wake up in the morning, when you go to bed at night. It's very, very simple. You're going to inhale for about 5 seconds. Keep it in your lungs, let it fill your airways, let it go all the way down for about 10 to 15 seconds, and then exhale. Why this is so good is because Spiriva and then these bronchodilators contain beta agonists, and so what they do, that form of medication actually relaxes the airways and then soothes to decrease any type of inflammation and then make sure that there is no outbreak, if you will, and that you're not experiencing some type of pain that would lead to a cough. And so again, I want you to do this 2 times a day. Very important though that you're consistent and that you're regimented with it, otherwise that cough will progress and then you will not feel as good. So I am super glad that we came in, talked today, and that you came in and that we got this all worked out. Do you have any questions for me at the moment?